When I think about the word discernment, something funny comes to mind. Now I know this is a Jesus podcast, but this is my podcast, so y'all go get this. I think about that little Bart Simpson character with his eyes. It's like squinty and it's like I can see you, or I see dead people, right? I think I think about that, but that is not what spiritual discernment is. But today on the podcast, I want to talk about some ways to develop spiritual discernment. Welcome back to another episode of the You, Me, and Jesus podcast. I am so excited that you're here. We are here every single Sunday on the podcast as well as here on our YouTube channel. And so if you want to learn more about, how to grow in your relationship with God, be sure to hit download to this podcast, but also hit subscribe and hit the bell. That way you'll be notified every single time we have a new episode come up on our YouTube channel. So we started the episode today. We're talking about how I see what spiritual discernment is, like the visual for that. But that's not really what spiritual discernment is. But I really want to get into it now. But the first thing I want to do is I want to read to you what Google says when I typed in the word discernment. So let me read it to you. It says the ability to judge well, or in the Christian context, perception and the absence of judgment with a view to obtaining spiritual guidance and understanding. Let me read you a sentence. Without providing for a time of healing and discernment, there will be no hope of living through this present moment without a shattering. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I also want to click on something that says, what does it mean when a person has discernment? Discernment is the ability to perceive, understand, and judge things clearly, especially those that are not obvious or straightforward. One more thing. We're going to click on what is the gift of spiritual discernment. It means to understand or know something through the power of the Spirit. It includes perceiving the true character of people and the source and meaning of spiritual manifestation. I really like that one. So what does that mean? The way that I look at spiritual discernment is that here is a situation, right? And we are people. So we have our thoughts, feelings, and whatever, our experiences. And we have, of course, rose-colored lenses because we all see through our own lenses, right? But to have spiritual discernment means that it surpasses you, me, and my understanding, my experiences, my rose-colored lenses. I'm able to get a higher perception of what is actually going on versus what I or others may think or feel, right? For example, you know how, you may not know this, so let me just point it out. So sometimes at church, you will have a worship leader who is leading worship, and he or she is singing or what have you. And sometimes what I experience is that they start to get quiet. The music is playing in the background, but they start to get quiet. And then they come up and say, I hear God is saying A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or something begins to happen. Because now here they are singing their song. They got their song set list or whatever, but they start to hear or experience God, or something is happening above what they perceive, or above their own understanding, their own lens. And then they begin to get another spiritual level of a thing. So I'll give you an example. So I have had times where I'm at church and, they always say, like, if someone needs prayer for something, and they usually invite everybody in the church to pray for people. So one time somebody was dealing with depression, anxiety, something. I can't remember exactly what it was. And they were like, if you are feeling ABC, be brave and raise your hand. And then somebody nearby raised their hand and they said, okay, everybody go and pray for them. And so we all go over to begin to pray for this person. And as I am praying, I get the sense that something else is going on, that something is going on with this girl's mind. And so I was like, okay, so what do I do? And I felt like I heard God say, touch her head. And I was just like, okay. So then I go to touch her head, but before I can touch her head, I can feel like power, like in my, like just coming down from heaven into my hand. And it's hard for me to actually get my hand onto her head. And so when I actually do it softly, I don't go like, ah, or anything. But when I put my hand on her head, I felt power coming down into me and going into her, right? I've had other times where I was praying for somebody and I just felt like I could hear God saying, hey, blow on her. And I'm like, You got to be kidding. Who am I, Superman? You know? But I was just like, okay. And so then I began to blow on her and blow like in the direction of her belly. And I started to watch her begin to fall over. And I was like, okay. So then I just keep doing that. And then she's on the ground, she's crying and whatever. I didn't have any understanding of what was going on. I didn't know what she was crying about. I didn't know anything. But discerning, like, is the ability to be outside of what I think or feel and being able to hear God instructing me to do something, to know something, to whatever, right? It's kind of like, I remember when God first told me to get on TikTok in the beginning of 2020. I heard God say it, but he didn't give me any details, right? It was like, this is what I want you to do. And he was very, very passionate about it. And so as I just kept doing this thing, I remember just hearing him say, hey, create a course and these other things. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I finally started getting this impression that like something bigger is happening that I don't understand. Right? And it's not for me to understand. It is for me to obey. And if I would just obey him, at some point in time, I'm going to get and see what in the world's happening. And it has changed my life, completely changed my entire life because I prayed and was able to get something that I never, ever could have gotten. Does that make sense? And so I also remember when everything was going on between me and my ex, we were still married, and having the dream about, him cheating. Now that's a dream, but that's also a discernment. It's also knowing something that there's no way I could have known this, but God gave me insight into a matter. And then when I got insight into the matter, I'm being like, he had a dream, but I still didn't believe him. And then in the morning, him telling me, go and check your phone records. And I'm like, what do you got insight? Here's a woman. Here's a couple of women. Here's all this stuff going on. And God just gave me knowledge and wisdom, about things like, all the things, right? But it's the ability to, outside of what I think and know in my lens, to know a thing, to pick up on a thing, there's something off here. There's something happening. There's something good that is happening here. Just being able to pick up something is happening, right? And so when I think about the question of how do you begin to develop a spiritual discernment, right? First thing, in order to develop a heightened level of spiritual discernment, you have got to spend more time with God. Okay. I'm not saying all day, every day, but you've got to spend time with him, like writing, praying, reading, and also trying to develop that gift of being able to discern. What does that mean? That means that talking to God and saying, okay, God, I want to grow in this area. Can we play a game? Can we go on this treasure hunt of me being able to hear, see, know, and feel, right? And so then you could say, okay, God, let's try some things. So can you tell me in advance who's going to call me today? Who's going to reach out to me today? What is something that's going to happen in whatever today? Something small, right? And then, or tell me somebody that's in need. Tell me somebody that needs prayer or whatever, without me going on social media, without me asking anybody. Tell me something that I could not know, right? And then just taking the risk of thinking you're hearing Nina, or you're hearing Tiffany, or you're hearing Tasha, whatever you think you're hearing, right? And then going, okay, let me reach out to them, right? And sometimes you're going to get it completely wrong. This is why you want to play a game and do small things and nothing big, and going on this journey of when I heard wrong, I heard it this way. Okay, that was off. All right. When I heard it right, I heard it this way. Okay, that was on. Let me keep trying. Let's just keep going on this journey to being able to do that, right? Another thing you can do is you got to get into an environment where they are teaching this, an environment where it's not just the one minister, but an environment where you get to learn and you get to grow. Okay, where people are teaching on the gifts of the Spirit, right? People are teaching on the fruits of the Spirit, and it's in manifestation. You are able to be in an environment where they are causing you to grow, right? So I did a school called Victory School of Supernatural Ministry when I was in Houston, Texas, and it was something I had never experienced in my entire life. And it was challenging me. It challenged me so much in so many ways. But when I think about what I learned in those 2 years, I mean, it has changed my life. The way that I see God, hear God, experience God, the way that I run my life, the way that I run my business, the way that I run You, Me, and Jesus, right? Because I went on this journey of trying to learn how to hear God. Does that make sense? And so you've got to get in an environment that is teaching that. I'm not saying you got to go and leave your church, but if you know of churches that are having classes and stuff, you can be, a member at your church and doing classes somewhere else. Like, there's no you're not obligated to their church, or so to speak. Does that make sense? Like, you get to go on a journey of growing and all of that on your own, whether your pastor or church is teaching that stuff or not. Like, your loyalty is to God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. It's not to a church name, okay? I don't mean that negatively, but you know what I mean? So I have been a part of many churches, and I was at other people's churches doing this and doing this and doing this and this. And that is how I was able to grow, because it's like, I couldn't expect that this church was going to be everything I wanted it to be. No, it's like, no. So instead of me trying to make it into what I wanted it to be, I can go to this place to learn about this place to get this, and all these different things. That way I get exactly what I need. And then one of the last things that you can do to develop spiritual discernment is getting around godly counsel. Okay. Now, mentorship is not always readily available, obviously, because everybody has their own lives. And to mentor somebody means you got to devote time and energy and all that with a person. And not everybody has all that time to do all mentorship like that. And that's okay. But if you can get around people, if some people are having like monthly gatherings and you can go to them, then go. Get around people that are maybe more seasoned than you in discernment, right? They're kind, they're gentle people, they love Jesus, they're leading people back to Jesus and not to themselves, that are operating in that and that are teaching that. Get around people like that, because guess what's going to happen? You're going to learn as a result of being around them, right? You'll be able to ask them questions, and they may be able to discern some different things to give you some wisdom on how to go to the next place, the next season, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But if you're not getting what you need right now, then, going to God and spending time with Him, playing a game. 2, giving yourself the opportunity to be at a different church, whether it's completely or it's just going to different events or like classes that they have or school or whatever. And then getting around godly counsel, people that, just want to be around you, that love Jesus, that want to pour into your life. And, that's a process. It's a process of getting people that want to pour into your life. Like me, people have asked me sometimes about mentorship, and I'm like, I'm not in a season where I have it to give to mentor people, because I have my business, and then I'm doing like some health things, taking care of my health and all this stuff, which is like a full-time job right now. And I'm like, I just don't have me to give right now. I told a girl at my church, I was like, hey, I know you're dealing with X, Y, and Z. I'm dealing with some stuff right now. I can't be that. I can't be what you need right now. I'm really sorry. You're going to have to find somebody else. I was nice about it, but I was like, no, because I need what I need right now. Can't give it to you. And so there are going to be people that say, hey, yeah, I can do some time with you. Like, I just reached out to a guy just yesterday about mentorship for business. And he was like, oh yeah, I can meet with you once a month. You can help me and I can help you. Sounds great. He's in a season where he can do that, right? If he said no, that will be okay too. Okay. So again, if your goal is to be able to develop in spiritual discernment, then you have to be willing to do the work, right? And the first work is between you and God, not people, not pastors, not schools, not churches, whatever. It's you and God. Because more than anything, no matter what anybody teaches you, you still are hearing it from God, okay? And so the number one person you want to spend time with first, learning and all that, is God, okay? Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know. I always want to know. You can subscribe to us here on YouTube, and you can ask any questions in the comments. And then if you are listening on the podcast, please make sure that you hit download. That way you get all the episodes. And make sure you give us a review. I read them all. And so if you're not posting a review, then I'm not getting them. Okay? All right. So thank you so much for listening and watching.